Alexandria, Egypt, 44 BC. The Mediterranean crashes against ancient harbors where the greatest library humanity has ever known once stood as a monument to human knowledge. Cleopatra VII rules from her palace, commanding an empire that stretches from the cataracts of the Nile to the distant shores of Cyprus. But tonight, something impossible is about to unfold along her coastline. 3 stealth submarines surface 20 meters offshore, their hulls barely disturbing the moonlit waters. 32 Navy SEALs emerge from the depths, the most lethal warriors the 21st century has ever produced, armed with technology that would appear as sorcery to any ancient observer. What happens when the absolute pinnacle of modern warfare collides with one of history's most cunning rulers? This isn't a story about superior firepower. This is about the oldest weapon in human history: deception. It's a standard SEAL team deployment, but instead of hunting terrorists in the Hindu Kush, they're facing an impossible mission. Capture and hold Ptolemaic Egypt. 32 operators, each carrying enough firepower to devastate a small army, but standing against an empire of nearly 4 million souls. The mathematics seem absurd until you understand what these men bring to the fight. Each SEAL carries a suppressed M4 carbine with advanced optics that can identify targets in complete darkness. Night vision technology that transforms the blackest night into their personal hunting ground. Enough ammunition to engage hundreds of enemies before running dry. The heavy weapons squad brings M240 machine guns, capable of sustained fire at ranges that would leave ancient warriors speechless. Designated marksmen carry precision rifles, effective beyond 800 meters, distances where Egyptian archers couldn't even see their targets through the heat shimmer. Body armor protects them from bronze weapons that represented cutting-edge military technology 3,000 years ago. But here's the catch that changes everything. They have exactly what they can carry on their backs. No resupply convoys, no air support, no extraction team waiting offshore. In heavy combat, a SEAL team can burn through 2,000 rounds in a single sustained engagement. Their entire ammunition supply might last 3, maybe 4 major firefights before reaching critical levels. Night vision batteries provide perhaps a week of operational capability, if used sparingly. Medical supplies are finite. Food runs out within days. And water. Water becomes the key to everything. Against them stands an empire at the absolute zenith of its power. Cleopatra commands professional armies trained in both Greek phalanx tactics and traditional Egyptian warfare. The Ptolemaic military machine includes heavily armored infantry fighting in disciplined formations, mobile cavalry units, sophisticated siege engines, and a naval force that dominates the eastern Mediterranean. The Royal Guard consists of elite warriors who have trained in combat since childhood, men who view death in service to their queen as the highest honor. Beyond the standing military, Egypt can mobilize hundreds of thousands of militia fighters, farmers who've trained with spear and shield, conscripts who would die to protect their homes. Alexandria itself represents a unique challenge. This isn't some scattered collection of villages. This is a massive urban center housing over 500,000 people. The palace complex sprawls across the royal quarter, protected by massive walls, reinforced gates, and hundreds of trained guards who patrol day and night. The city's layout includes narrow streets perfect for close-quarters ambushes, but also broad avenues where defenders can mass their forces and overwhelm isolated attackers. The harbor fortifications bristle with catapults and ballista that could threaten even modern vessels if given the chance. So how do 32 men even attempt this impossible mission? The answer lies in exploiting their single greatest advantage: complete technological supremacy combined with surgical precision and perfect execution. The operation begins under cover of absolute darkness. Their night vision transforms them into ghosts, allowing them to navigate between patrol boats and harbor defenses while remaining completely invisible to ancient eyes. The first objective isn't conquest, it's intelligence. Small teams infiltrate deep into the city to map guard rotations, identify critical choke points, and most importantly, locate Cleopatra herself within the sprawling palace complex. Drones, silent and invisible to ancient observers, scout the palace grounds and surrounding districts. The SEALs need to understand exactly where the centers of power lie before making any aggressive moves. Here's where it gets interesting. Unlike other ancient civilizations with distributed power structures, Ptolemaic Egypt is ruthlessly centralized. Remove Cleopatra and her immediate inner circle, and the entire administrative machinery grinds to a halt. The queen controls not just military command, but religious authority, economic policy, and diplomatic relations with Rome and other powers. She is literally the keystone holding the entire kingdom together. The assault begins with coordinated strikes across the royal quarter. Teams move through Alexandria's streets like specters, neutralizing sentries with suppressed weapons before anyone can raise an alarm. Breaching charges blow through reinforced palace gates, while sniper teams establish overwatch positions on surrounding rooftops. Machine gun teams set up defensive positions at critical intersections to prevent reinforcements from reaching the palace. Inside the palace complex, room clearing happens with methodical precision. Bronze weapons and linen armor provide zero protection against modern ballistic weapons. Guards who might have been feared warriors in their own time fall to opponents they never even see coming. The SEALs reach Cleopatra's private chambers within minutes of beginning their assault. They capture the queen and her immediate advisors before any organized resistance can form. But capturing Alexandria's rulers is only the first move in an impossibly complex game. Holding power requires an entirely different strategy. 32 men cannot patrol a city of 500,000 people. They cannot be everywhere at once. Instead, they must leverage fear, information control, and strategic positioning to maintain their grip while their finite resources slowly but inevitably diminish. The SEALs establish fortified positions at the city's most critical infrastructure points. They seize the massive grain warehouses that feed Alexandria's population. They occupy the harbor facilities that control all maritime trade. They take over the administrative centers where tax collection and governance flow through. Machine gun nests overlooking the main squares discourage any large gatherings. Sniper teams in elevated positions maintain constant psychological pressure on potential resistance leaders. They establish their primary camp in a secure section of the palace complex, close to the royal quarters where Cleopatra is held under constant guard. The location is strategic. High walls, limited access points, clear sightlines. And most importantly, there's a well. An old stone well in the courtyard close to their position. Fresh water from an underground spring that's fed the palace for generations. The SEALs test it thoroughly. No contamination, no suspicious odors. Clean, cold water. Perfect. Cleopatra becomes their most valuable strategic asset. Paraded before crowds under armed guard, she delivers proclamations written by her captors. The queen's divine authority, so fundamental to Ptolemaic rule, now serves to legitimize the occupation. Religious ceremonies continue on schedule, but under SEAL supervision. The vast bureaucracy keeps functioning, but now follows orders delivered at gunpoint. The illusion of continuity masks the reality of conquest. Food becomes both currency and control mechanism. Citizens who cooperate receive their rations. Those who show signs of resistance face starvation. The SEALs use their limited medical supplies to treat cooperative officials and influential citizens, while denying care to potential troublemakers. It's brutal calculus, but necessary when you're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Information warfare proves just as crucial as firepower. Carefully planted rumors spread through the city, whispers that the invaders possess god-like powers, stories that resistance is futile, tales that cooperation leads to prosperity under the new order. For 3 days, it seems to work. The city remains under their control. No major uprisings, no coordinated resistance. The impossible mission appears to be succeeding. But Cleopatra is watching, learning, planning. The queen who seduced Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, who navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics, who maintained Egypt's independence through cunning and charm where military might had failed. She watches these warriors from the future with careful eyes. She sees how they move, how they think, how they plan. And she notices something crucial. They are careful, impossibly careful. They inspect every meal brought to them. They refuse gifts. They maintain discipline that would shame even the most elite royal guards. On the second night, she makes a request through one of the interpreters, a servant who speaks enough Greek to communicate. She asks to meet with their commander, not as a prisoner begging for mercy, but as a defeated monarch who wishes to discuss terms. The commander agrees, but the meeting happens on his terms. Cleopatra is brought to a secure room, surrounded by armed seals, every precaution in place. She speaks through the interpreter, her voice calm and measured. She tells them she understands that resistance is futile. Their weapons are beyond anything Egypt can counter. She has seen what they can do. She proposes cooperation. Let her continue to rule in name under their authority. Let the kingdom believe she still holds power. In exchange, she will ensure compliance, smooth governance, no resistance. It makes strategic sense, and the commander knows it. But he also knows she's dangerous. Every instinct screams not to trust her. He agrees to consider her proposal, but makes no commitments. The meeting ends. Cleopatra is returned to her chambers. The seals remain vigilant. On the fourth evening, Cleopatra makes another request. She wishes to hold a ceremony, a public declaration of submission before the Egyptian nobility and the city's leaders, a grand spectacle where she will formally recognize their conquest and call for peace and cooperation. It will legitimize their rule in the eyes of the people, make governing easier, reduce the risk of uprising. The SEAL commander considers this carefully. It makes tactical sense. A public ceremony would cement their authority, but the risks are obvious. He agrees, but with strict conditions. The ceremony will happen in the palace's great hall. All attendees will be searched. No weapons. His men will maintain overwatch positions throughout. Multiple fallback points, escape routes secured, every possible contingency planned. The great hall transforms. Torches blaze from every wall. Musicians play ancient instruments. Egyptian nobles arrive in their finest garments, each one searched thoroughly before entering. Servants bring an endless parade of dishes, roasted meats, fresh bread, exotic fruits, and wine, especially wine. Amphora after amphora of Egypt's finest vintages, presented with elaborate ceremony. Cleopatra appears in full royal regalia, golden headdress, flowing silk, jewelry that catches the torchlight and creates patterns of dancing fire. She moves through the hall with practiced grace, and when the formal proceedings begin, she delivers a speech. Through interpreters, she declares her acceptance of the new order. She calls for peace, for cooperation, for Egypt to embrace this new chapter in its ancient history. Then she does something unexpected. She offers a toast. To the warriors who achieve the impossible, to their strength, their courage, their inevitable victory. Servants move through the hall, offering cups of wine to every SEAL present. The commander raises his hand. His men remain still. Not one of them reaches for a cup. The silence stretches. Egyptian nobles glance at each other nervously. Cleopatra's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in her eyes. Understanding, perhaps even respect. She smiles, and through the interpreter says, "Wise warriors, caution is the mark of true strength. I would expect nothing less from those who conquered Egypt in 4 days." She sets down her own cup and gestures for the servants to withdraw. "Then let us simply share this moment of history. No wine needed to mark what we all know is true." The ceremony continues. Speeches are made. Oaths are sworn. It all seems genuine, but the seals remain alert. When it finally ends, they return to their camp in the palace complex. Standard security protocols, guard rotations, overlapping fields of fire. Everything by the book. What they don't know is that earlier that day, while they were focused on preparing security for the ceremony, palace servants approached the well in their courtyard. The same well the SEALs had tested and cleared on day 1. The same well they've been using to refill their canteens and water supplies for 4 days. The well closest to their camp, most convenient, most logical to use. The servants carried amphora of fresh water from another part of the palace. They appeared to be performing routine maintenance, cleaning the stones around the well opening. Nothing suspicious. Nothing that would draw attention from men focused on larger security concerns. And in those amphora was something special. A mixture Cleopatra's personal physicians had prepared. Concentrated extract from specific plants. Opium poppies in careful doses. Henbane, mandrake. Not poison meant to kill, but a powerful sedative. Tasteless, odorless, invisible. The servants poured the mixture into the well. It dispersed through the water, undetectable. Then they left, and no one thought anything of it. Just servants doing servant work in a conquered palace. That night, after the ceremony, the SEALs follow their standard routine. They're exhausted from days of constant vigilance. The ceremony added extra stress. They drank from their canteens, water they collected from the well earlier that day. Some refill their bottles directly from the well for the night watch. It tastes clean, cool, refreshing after hours in full gear. Within 30 minutes, the first man starts feeling it. Heavy eyelids, sluggish thoughts. He mentions it to his team leader, who notices he's feeling it too. Must be exhaustion finally catching up. 4 days of combat operations with minimal sleep. The body can only take so much. They increase the guard rotation frequency. More men on watch, shorter shifts. But it's not enough. By the second hour, 28 of the 32 SEALs are unconscious. Not sleeping, unconscious. Breathing shallow and slow, completely unresponsive. The chemistry was perfect. Cleopatra's physicians had calculated the doses based on the amount of water in the well, the likely consumption rate, the body weight of large warriors. They got it exactly right. 4 SEALs remain conscious, and they know immediately something is catastrophically wrong. 2 of them are on perimeter watch, positioned away from the main camp. They hadn't drunk from the well yet, were planning to after their shift ended. The 3rd is the team medic who used his own purified water reserves because of a minor stomach issue earlier in the day. The 4th is a designated marksman who simply drank less, his body weight and metabolism just enough different to keep him functional, though barely. The medic checks his teammates. Pulse is there, but weak, pupils dilated, unresponsive to stimuli. He recognizes the symptoms. Sedatives, heavy doses. They've been drugged. He reaches for his radio to call for help before remembering there is no help. They're alone in ancient Egypt. The 2 perimeter guards start pulling their unconscious teammates into a defensive position, trying to establish a smaller perimeter they can actually defend with 4 men. The barely conscious marksman props himself against a wall, fighting the effects through sheer willpower, his rifle aimed at the main entrance. But they all know the mathematics. 4 men, limited ammunition, against an entire palace full of enemies who now know their prey is helpless. They don't have to wait long. Egyptian soldiers begin pouring into the courtyard, not the ceremonial guards from earlier. These are hardened warriors, fully armed, moving with practiced coordination. They've been waiting for this moment, assembled in nearby chambers, ready to strike the instant the drugged water took effect. The two perimeter SEALs open fire. Suppressed rounds cut down the first wave of Egyptian soldiers. The muzzle flashes give away their positions, but the psychological impact is immediate. The ancient warriors have never faced anything like this. Men falling dead from invisible strikes. No arrows, no spears, just sudden death. The initial assault falters, but the Egyptians have numbers, they have courage, and they have orders from their queen. More soldiers push forward, using fallen comrades as cover. The medic sets up a machine gun position, firing controlled bursts that cut through bronze armor like paper. The courtyard becomes a killing ground. Bodies pile up. Egyptian officers shout orders, trying to coordinate a flanking maneuver. The barely conscious marksman takes careful shots despite his impaired state. Each round finds a target. Egyptian commanders fall. Warriors attempting to climb the courtyard walls drop silently. But he can feel himself fading. His vision blurs. His hands shake. He knows he has minutes at best before he passes out completely. One of the perimeter SEALs takes a spear to the leg. Bronze punches through a gap in his armor. He goes down, still firing, but his mobility is gone. The medic tries to reach him, but arrows force him back into cover. Ancient weapons might be primitive, but enough of them in a confined space creates a deadly storm of bronze and wood. The Egyptians adapt. They start using shields in tight formation, absorbing the gunfire while others advance behind them. They throw torches to illuminate the courtyard, reducing the SEALs' night vision advantage. Some carry large water jars, using them as mobile cover. It's not sophisticated tactics, but with overwhelming numbers, it doesn't need to be. The machine gun runs dry. The medic transitions to his rifle, but he's down to his last magazine. The standing perimeter guard is hit by multiple arrows. He doesn't go down immediately. Keeps firing until blood loss takes him. The wounded guard uses his last grenade, the explosion devastating the tightly packed Egyptian formation, but more soldiers simply flow in to replace the fallen. The medic makes a decision. He can't save his unconscious teammates. He can't hold this position. But he can make them pay. He pulls out his remaining explosives and starts rigging them among the unconscious SEALs. If the Egyptians want their advanced weapons and equipment, they'll have to pay for it in blood. The marksman, now barely conscious, understands what the medic is doing. With his last bit of strength, he aims at the main group of Egyptian soldiers massing for a final assault. He doesn't have the strength to hold the rifle steady, so he rests it on a stone and takes one last shot. The round catches an Egyptian commander in the chest. Then darkness takes him. The medic finishes his work. He sets the timers for 30 seconds, enough time to grab his rifle and make one last stand. He stands, knowing he's about to die, and starts firing into the advancing Egyptians. They're meters away now. He can see their faces in the torchlight. Young men, old men, all determined to reclaim their palace. A spear takes him in the shoulder. He spins, still firing. Another spear, then another. He goes down on one knee, switches to his sidearm, keeps firing. An Egyptian warrior with a bronze sword rushes him. The medic shoots him twice, but momentum carries the dying man forward. The sword catches the medic across the throat. Egyptian soldiers swarm over the position, rushing toward the unconscious SEALs and their incredible equipment. They have orders to capture as much as possible. These weapons could change everything. Officers shout commands, organizing teams to carry the unconscious warriors away, to gather the strange devices and armor. Then the explosives detonate. The courtyard becomes an inferno. The blast wave tears through tightly packed soldiers. Fragments of modern equipment mix with ancient stone, becoming deadly shrapnel. The explosion is devastating. Dozens of Egyptians die instantly. The unconscious SEALs are killed in the blast, but so is most of the advanced equipment, destroyed beyond recognition. When the smoke clears, the courtyard is a charnel house. Over 100 Egyptian soldiers dead or dying. All 32 SEALs dead. Most of their equipment destroyed. The operation that seemed so impossible, the conquest that actually succeeded for 4 days, ends in mutual destruction. Cleopatra stands at a balcony overlooking the courtyard, watching the aftermath. Her expression is unreadable. She's won, but the cost was staggering. An entire company of her best soldiers dead, the palace damaged. And still, she knows she made the right choice. These warriors, had they remained, would have been impossible to dislodge. Their weapons would have made them gods among men. Now, in the smoking ruins, her soldiers recover what little survived. A few damaged pieces of equipment, some scraps of the strange armor. Not enough to replicate, but enough to study, enough to wonder about. Her scholars will examine these fragments for years, trying to understand the principles behind their creation. She orders the bodies of the SEALs gathered with respect. They were enemies, but they were warriors. They will be buried with honor, though their existence will be stricken from official records. No one can know that Cleopatra's reign was nearly ended by 32 men from a future that won't exist for 2,000 years. Within days, life in Alexandria returns to normal. The professional armies that had been marching toward the city receive word that a minor internal matter has been resolved. Roman officials hear that an assassination attempt was thwarted. The Ptolemaic kingdom continues as it always has, ruled by the most cunning monarch of the ancient world. In the palace vaults, sealed in darkness, rest fragments of a future that almost was. Damaged optics, pieces of ceramic armor, scraps of weapons that defied understanding. Not enough to change history, just enough to haunt it. The story becomes legend, whispered among palace guards. The night that foreign demons tried to steal Egypt's crown. The night that 100 warriors died defending their queen. The night that Cleopatra proved that no weapon, no matter how powerful, could defeat intelligence and patience. Because in the end, the most sophisticated technology ever created couldn't save 32 warriors from humanity's oldest weakness. The need for water. The need for rest. The assumption that having checked something once made it safe forever. Sometimes the most advanced warriors in human history can be defeated not by a superior force, but by a woman who understood that the simplest traps are often the most effective. A poisoned well, patient waiting, and the willingness to sacrifice hundreds of her own soldiers to eliminate an existential threat. Cleopatra had conquered Egypt's conquerors, not with bronze swords or ancient magic, but with something far more powerful. Strategic thinking, perfect patience, and the understanding that even gods must drink.